Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria, and today we're talking about raising a multilingual toddler in a Montessori home. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're either on a multilingual journey with your child yourself or you're thinking of starting one. And I wanted to remind you that being multilingual or bilingual does not inherently cause a speech delay. If this is news to you, I'm going to link some of the research articles down below that you can check out. I will say it's important to let your pediatrician know if you speak more than one language at home, just so they know how to properly evaluate your child when they start asking you what their current progress with speech development is. If you are new to my channel, some basics to cover. Stella is currently 19 months. We live in the States, so the community language is English. I'm from Belarus, so I speak Russian to her, and her dad is Korean, so he speaks Korean to her. So we are utilizing the one parent, one language method, meaning that I only speak Russian to her and he only speaks Korean to her. Between the two of us, we also chose to speak Korean because once she is 3, she'll be attending a Montessori preschool in the States, meaning that will be all in English. So once she's 3, both of our languages will inherently become the minority language. Now, I do stay at home with Stella while her dad works, meaning that she has a much larger exposure to Russian than she does to Korean. Stella has always been able to understand both of us equally well, despite Korean being the minority language in our house. However, as she started to speak, she definitely heavily prefers speaking in Russian. So if you're finding that your child is doing the same thing, where they're preferring to speak the language that is the main language in your family, I encourage you to take a look at what kind of interactions are they having in that minority language. So while Dad and Stella do have quality time together when he comes home from work, when we took a look at their interactions, we found that they weren't really having quality language interactions together. We decided to implement some special daddy-daughter activities that she can look forward to, she's excited about, so she's more excited to be utilizing more rich Korean language with him. Yes, they're available to her throughout the day if she wants to use them, but she definitely looks forward to that special time with her dad. So as soon as he comes home, they have a little snack together, and then they head over to read some books, because books are going to be an amazing way to introduce language regardless of whether you're a monolingual or a bilingual home.
여긴 오스트레일리아에 있는 왈라비. 여기는 뭐야? 소라기. 눈. 그럼 여기 뭐야? 귀. 코. 아기가 앉다.
As of late, she's really interested in learning about specific facts about animals. We have some animal encyclopedias, which has allowed us to get into some really rich vocab between both Korean and Russian, having to learn the names of some interesting animals in Korean and Russian ourselves. Even though our library isn't that varied in Korean or Russian just yet, we have been able to continuously translate what we already have and utilize those resources.
Вот орел, тоже смотри, Стелла. Вот орел и вот орел. Не знаешь? Фламинго.
Whatever she is currently showing an interest in learning is what we will go ahead and supplement with books. So right now that's animals and, surprisingly, numbers. She saw this book out of rotation and became so interested in what these symbols are, so we started naming them to her. And now she's really interested in naming them back to us in our respective languages.
5, 7, 8.
If there is any type of book you are able to get in your home language, I would recommend going for nursery rhyme books. Anything that's sing-songy and predictable and easy for the child to actually predict and try to repeat back to us. We have a couple of nursery rhyme books in Russian, and those were the words that Stella was first most interested in saying, because that's exactly what nursery rhymes are designed for.
Шишки. Топ. Глазками. Хлоп, хлоп.
I'm often asked, what kind of music do I let Stella listen to? She's exposed to a variety of music that is appropriate for a child, and she can listen to whatever she likes. I make sure that in that rotation are also Russian and Korean kids songs, because those are made to be with words and vocab that a child can easily pick up and try to say back to us. Songs that naturally lead to a lot of movement, like the wheels on the bus or head, shoulders, knees, and toes. They also have vocab that a child is most interested in because they're hearing it throughout the day. Also songs that have a very predictable and repetitive pattern that allows the child to pick up on that vocab and that pattern and try to sing along with that song.
Кошка делает мяу, 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 мяу.
I'll get to actual Montessori materials and how we use those in a multilingual home in just a second, but we have found that by the end of the day when Dad is home, Stella is much more attracted to do open-ended and creative play, something like art or building, and if you're a working parent, this is likely the case for you as well. Because Stella's dad is an engineer, he's naturally a lot better at actually building things than I am, So naturally, she's a lot more attracted to doing that kind of activity with him instead of me. This open-ended play naturally lends itself to a lot of amazing, rich language opportunities. Because she's interested with playing with her dad in the evenings, now we can guarantee that she has at least some rich Korean language exposure. When dad comes home, I simply brief him on what things Stella was interested in that day, so he has a baseline of understanding of what she might be interested in building or working on when she's with him. And now that she's more interested in pretend play, having a couple of activities to supplement that has allowed for that many more Korean language opportunities as well.
아니야? 다른 옷 입고 싶어? 무슨 옷 입고 싶어? 조금 더 멋있게 정장을 입었어? 나 정장 좀 잘 안 입으니까? 아빠는 사실 농구예요. 농구 옷을 입어. 바지도 바꿔야 돼? 자, 이거 빼. 아빠 위에가 춥잖아. 네, 웃는 얼굴.
So yes, even in a Montessori home, do go ahead and let your child explore open-ended and pretend and creative play, because that lends itself to so many wonderful language opportunities. Now, the open-ended and creative type of play naturally lends itself to a lot more conversation-style language development, meaning once we say something, we will pause, and it will be Stella's turn to say something. So you'll often hear it recommended that after you ask your child to do something, to count until 10, to really give them that chance to fully process what's happening and have the chance to react appropriately. So if you show your child a picture of a duck and you point to it and ask them, "What's this?" Don't immediately say back duck when they don't answer. Count until 10. You might be surprised at how much your child is actually able to speak if we just give them that chance and that breathing room to do so. A lot of the Montessori style activities that we engage in during the day are actually more geared towards developing some sort of specific language or vocabulary. This comes in the form of language baskets or matching activities. Even the sensorial activities still allow us to work on specific vocabulary. Surely there is still a chance for us to engage in that back and forth and conversation, but we're also really zeroing in on that rich language development. Montessori activities are also amazing in the sense that they can really be tailored to fit whatever language and culture we're working with. So during the Lunar New Year, I was able to create some very simple matching activity that Dad and Stella were able to engage in and really provide for additional vocabulary exposure that she wasn't going to have a chance to experience in any other way. Now, traditionally at this age, the materials wouldn't have any kind of label because we're not working on reading or writing just yet. However, as I've mentioned, we don't really have that much exposure to the written language in either Russian or Korean in the materials that we do have. So I've chosen to add some labels here and there, which strays away from the very traditional kind of Montessori approach for toddlers, but I think allows us to have just enough additional exposure in the written form of both Korean and Russian. And I want to remind you that language development with Montessori activities doesn't stem only from the language-specific activities. This can also come from the simplest works, even something as simple as practical life activities. In fact, this is where we engage in conversation the most with Stella, is I simply start to narrate everything that I'm doing and everything that's going through my mind. Because I'm always offering Stella the chance to be included in all of the smallest daily life activities, this again provides us with additional opportunities for language development. And of course, I'm always conscious to go ahead and narrate or explain what it is that we're doing so that she does have that exposure to additional language. So instead of putting away the dishes in silence, I take this as an opportunity to invite her to not only help me along, but also use this as a chance to explain to her what the dishes are, that they're fragile, that we need to hold them with both hands. This not only teaches her how to properly handle the dishes and be safe with them, but also exposes her to additional language.
Опять утку рисуем? Вот эту птичку будем рисовать вот так? Это не кря, правильно. Это, мне кажется, это аист. Я не знаю, это папина птичка. Ну, папы спросить. Да, папа нам может рассказать, какая это птичка.
I think we all know this, but it bears mentioning again. Our kids understand so much more than we can imagine. Just because they can't say anything or everything doesn't mean they're not understanding what we're telling them. But with that, an important strategy I've been implementing ever since I was pregnant is narrating, which is a bit different from just sportscasting. I'm not focusing on what Stella is doing. I'm simply saying everything that I see around. I'm explaining my day. I'm explaining my thoughts. This is especially great to do if you're outside because there's just so much to talk about.
Школьный автобус? Школьный автобус стоит там? Там школьный автобус стоит, да? Машинка на светофоре стоит? Там какой сейчас свет? Красный? Красный, стой? Да. А вот сейчас зеленый? Машинка все равно не едет. Ой, как она толкает! Мама не толкает? Только Стелла толкает?
Whatever chance you have, simply speaking and allowing the child to hear that language from an actual human as opposed to TV or songs is going to be the most important and the most beneficial way for them to pick up on that language. I wanted to note that while we do use the proper intonations for a baby and a toddler so that they can really pick up on that emphasis and pick up on our words, we don't dumb down any words. And if she says something incorrectly, we simply say that correct word back to her. And if she says something in the opposite language to us, so if she says something to me in Korean, I will simply respond back in Russian. We're continuing to use the actual language that she will hear and utilize as an adult in the real world, as opposed to trying to fill in the blanks with baby talk.
Журавль. У журавля длинный клюв вот такой. Ты нарисовала журавля? Нарисовать его. У него хвостик. Тик-тик-тик. Журавль.
And as a bonus tip, we found it very engaging for her to hear and point out similarities and differences.
Пушистые штаны? Нет. А кофточка? Пушистая. О, мама пушистые штаны. А вы Стелла? Пушистая кофточка? А штаны? Не пушистые. А кофточка? Пушистая у Стеллы, а у мамы? Не пушистая. А мамы штаны? Пушистые.
This interest first started from the texture card material that I had presented to her, but has now really evolved into understanding similarities and differences, and also that additional bonding experience of trying to understand how mom and dad are similar and different from Stella. And this has again allowed so many rich language opportunities that we may not have had we not introduced those materials to her. While this may seem like a lot when it's boiled down into one video concentrated on her language development, the most important thing we focus on is keeping it light and keeping it fun. We're not trying to make this busy work, we're not trying to drill her with any information, we're simply focused on engaging in very meaningful opportunities, very meaningful activities, and following her lead. The more we're focused on actually engaging with our child, the more natural language opportunities arise, and the more interested they are in actually trying to communicate back with us. I think there's been quite a few tips in this video. If you've got any additional questions or you'd like to hear more about this topic, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear where you guys are on your multilingual journey as well. And until next time, I hope you stay safe.